Hello everyone, this is Himani and I welcome you all to Arpita Sharma classes. This is another class in the series of economic shorts classes which we are taking, and today we are going to be looking at some of the important MCQs for economy. Here is an announcement for you. Arpita Sharma ma'am is taking an Unacademy Plus course on Art and Culture crash course for UPSC CSE 2020 and 2021. Another course is she is revising current affairs through MCQs for UPSC CSE 2020 and 2021. If you want to access this course, you can do so by using the code Sharma20, by which you will get up to 10% discount. Let's begin. The first question is, India's growth story from the eve of independence to the liberalization phase is largely termed as Hindu rate of growth. What does it refers to? Non-inclusive growth story of India before 1990s liberalization. You can ignore this is a repetition. Religious beliefs of successive government right from the independence. Irrational developmental agenda driven by majoritarian society. The phenomenon of sluggishness in the growth rate of Indian economy before 1990s. The answer is option D. What was option D? It was the phenomenon of sluggishness in the growth rate of Indian economy before 1990s. Let's look at the solution. Hindu rate of growth was coined to refer to the phenomenon of sluggishness in the growth rate of Indian economy, which was 3.5% observed persistently during 1950s through 1980s. So 1950s से 1980s के बीच में जो growth rate चल रहा था, that was 3.5%. अब उसको रेफर करने के लिए what was the term that was coined? It was the Hindu rate of growth. The term which owes to Professor Raj Krishna, member of the Planning Commission. So who came up with this term? Professor Raj Krishna. He was a member of the Planning Commission, captured popular imagination and was used synonymously to describe inadequacy of India's growth performance. Okay, let's move ahead. The next question is, which of the following is not a valid argument for advocating free trade for developing economy? The result is more efficient allocation of resources internationally. It improves competition and reduces domestic monopoly in goods and services. It allows exporters to reap economies of scale. It creates a level playing field between developing and developed economies. Let's look at the answer. It's option D, which was, it creates a level playing field between developing and developed economies. Since it allows specialization of production, statement A is correct. Statement B is a natural consequence of more producers of the same product or service. Since exporters can tap domestic as well as foreign markets, they can produce more, reduce costs, and thus reap economies of scale. So statement C is also correct. Statement D is not valid argument. Out of the all four, globalization along with free trade can adversely affect the economies of developing countries, but not giving equal playing field for imposing conditions which are unfavorable. तो बाकी कंट्रीज के लिए जो कि सिमिलर हैं, जैसे एक डेवलप कंट्री के साथ ट्रेड करेगी तो उनको इतना नुकसान नहीं होगा, बट अगर हम इक्वल टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज पे भी लगाएंगे और डेवलप कंट्रीज पे भी लगाएंगे तो उनके लिए लेवल प्लेइंग फील्ड नहीं बचेगा. हेंस स्टेटमेंट 4 इज नॉट करेक्ट. Next question. Interest rate differential between two countries in the short run can result in change of investment flows across these two nations, change in exchange rate of these two nations, change in trade flows across these nations. Select the correct answer, vote. Let's look at the solution. It's option A, which was 1 and 2. These were the statements. Change of investment flows across these two nations. Change in exchange rate across these two nations. So, in the short run, another factor that is important in determining exchange rate movement is the interest rate differential, that is the difference between interest rates between countries. There are huge funds owed by banks, multinational corporations, and wealthy individuals which move around the world in search of the highest interest rates. If we assume that the government bonds in country A pay 8% rate of interest, whereas equally safe bonds in country B yields 10%, the interest rate differential is 2%. Investors from country A will be attracted by the high interest rates of country B and will buy the currency of country B, selling their own currency. At the same time, investors in country B will also find investing in their own country more attractive and will therefore demand less of country A's currency. This means that the demand curve of country A's currency will shift to the left and the supply curve will shift to the right, causing a depression of country A's currency and an appreciation of country B's currency. Thus, a rise in the interest rates at home often leads to an appreciation of domestic currency. Hence, the implicit assumption is that no restriction exists in buying bonds issued by the foreign governments, but changes in trade flows are associated with relatively long-term changes. तो अब इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? शॉर्ट टर्म में एक इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर और भी होता है जिससे हम डिटरमिन करते हैं एक्सचेंज रेट्स. वो क्या है? इंटरेस्ट रेट डिफरेंशियल. अब इस इंटरेस्ट रेट डिफरेंशियल का मतलब क्या है कि फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे दो कंट्री के इंटरेस्ट रेट देखते हैं. कंट्री ए हमें 8% इंटरेस्ट दे रही है और कंट्री बी हमें 10% इंटरेस्ट रेट दे रही है. तो इंटरेस्ट डिफरेंशियल 2% का हो गया. एंड नाउ इन्वेस्टर्स फ्रॉम द कंट्री ए विल बी अट्रैक्टेड बाय द इंटरेस्ट रेट्स ऑफ कंट्री बी में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहेंगे क्योंकि वहां का इंटरेस्ट रेट ज्यादा है और इसीलिए कंट्री बी भी अपने ही करेंसी में ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट करेंगी. तो इसका मतलब क्या है? कंट्री ए के करेंसी का डिमांड कम हो जाएगा और उसका डिमांड कर्व भी लेफ्ट में शिफ्ट हो जाएगा और इसकी करेंसी का डेप्रिसिएशन हो जाएगा. मतलब कंट्री ए की करेंसी का डेप्रिसिएशन हो जाएगा एंड एट द सेम टाइम कंट्री बी की करेंसी का अप्रिसिएशन हो जाएगा. तो इसीलिए हम बोल रहे हैं कि कंट्री इंटरेस्ट रेट डिफरेंशियल का बहुत बड़ा हाथ है मूवमेंट ऑफ एक्सचेंज रेट को डिटरमिन करने में. लेकिन ऑप्शन सी हमारा क्यों नहीं सही था? क्योंकि चेंज इन द ट्रेड फ्लोज आर अ लॉन्ग टर्म चेंजेस. ट्रेड फ्लोज में चेंजेस लॉन्ग टर्म में आएंगे, नॉट इन द शॉर्ट टर्म. क्वेश्चन हमें शॉर्ट टर्म के बारे में पूछ रहा था. सी शॉर्ट टर्म कंट्रीज डिफरेंशियल बिटवीन द टू कंट्रीज इन द शॉर्ट टर्म. सो लेट्स मूव अहेड. Consider the following statements regarding yield curve. The yield curve is a graph showing the relationship between interest rates earned on lending money for different durations. The yield curve turns positive when near-term treasuries yield more than their long-term counterparts. Which of the above statements is or are incorrect? We have to focus on this, what the question is asking. Sometimes we tend to get the question wrong because we don't focus on this word. It's very important. Always look if the question is asking for the correct answer or the incorrect answer. Let's look at the answer. It's option B. So option B is incorrect. Which is option B? Statement 2 is incorrect. The yield curve turns positive. Near-term treasury yield more than their long-term counterparts. Let's look at the solution. The yield curve is a graph showing the relationship between interest rates earned on lending money for different durations. Yield curve क्या दिखाता है हमें? Interest rates कितने earn किए हैं money lend करने के बाद different durations में. Normally, someone who lent to the government or corporation for a year by buying 1-year government or corporate bond would expect to get a lower interest rate than someone who lent for 5 to 10 years, making the yield curve upward sloping. अब क्या होगा जब कोई भी बंदा गवर्नमेंट के बॉन्ड्स या सिक्योरिटीज में इन्वेस्ट करता है, शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए इन्वेस्ट करेगा तो वो कम एक्सपेक्ट करेगा. ही वुड गेट लोअर इंटरेस्ट रेट एक्सपेक्ट करेगा अगर उसने शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए इन्वेस्ट किया तो. लेकिन अगर जिस बंदे ने 5 to 10 years के लिए इन्वेस्ट किया है वो एक अपवर्ड स्लोपिंग कर्व देखेगा क्योंकि वो ज्यादा एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा होगा, ज्यादा रिटर्न एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा होगा. Recently in the US, the 10-year bond rate has fallen to the point at which the 10-year rate was below the 2-year rate. So the yield curve is inverted. लेकिन US में recently क्या हुआ था कि 10 years के इन्वेस्टमेंट में उन्हें उल्टा देखने को मिला कि अगर हम शॉर्ट टर्म इन्वेस्टमेंट करते जो yield कर्व तब देखने को मिलता, अभी वो 10 year इन्वेस्टमेंट रेट पे हमें देखने को मिल रहा है. So this yield curve turns negative when the near-term treasuries yield more than the long-term counterparts. अब इसका क्या मतलब है, yield curve जो होता है वो नेगेटिव हो जाता है अगर नियर टर्म ट्रेजरीज, मतलब जो जल्दी मच्योर होने वाली है ट्रेजरीज मतलब कि सिक्योरिटीज में जो इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है उसका जो रिटर्न है अगर नियर टर्म में आने वाला है और अगर वो ज्यादा है, नियर टर्म वाला मतलब शॉर्ट टर्म वाले में ज्यादा रिटर्न मिल रहा है रादर देन लॉन्ग टर्म वाला, तो तब यील्ड कर्व हमारा नेगेटिव हो जाता है. तो अब यील्ड कर्व टर्न्स नेगेटिव व्हेन नियर टर्म ट्रेजरीज यील्ड मोर देन देयर लॉन्ग टर्म काउंटरपार्ट्स. मतलब यील्ड कर्व हमारा नेगेटिव कब हो जाता है, जब नियर टर्म ट्रेजरीज हमें ज्यादा यील्ड देने लग जाए लॉन्ग टर्म ट्रेजरीज के मुकाबले. सो व्हाट वाज द क्वेश्चन ने हमसे पूछा था कि यील्ड कर्व क्या होता है. Yield curve is a graph showing relationship between interest rates earned on lending money for different durations. This was correct. We saw in the solution. The second was the yield curve turns positive when the near-term treasuries yield more than their long-term counterparts. So it's not positive; it's negative. Okay, so this becomes incorrect. So that's why the option is B, which is correct. Let's move ahead. Which of the following is correct regarding the market intervention scheme of the Government of India? It is a price support mechanism for procurement of perishable and horticulture commodities in the event of fall in the market prices. It is a tariff that the government imposes on foreign imports to protect the domestic sector. It is a protectionist mechanism of the government to prevent the monopoly of the MNCs in India. It is a mechanism to avoid sudden crashing of domestic stock market. Let's look at the solution. So it's A. What was A? It is a price support mechanism for procurement of perishables and horticulture commodities in the event of fall in the market prices. अब हम पेरिशेबल्स का प्रोक्योरमेंट, पेरिशेबल्स कौन से कमोडिटीज होते हैं जो जल्दी पेरिश कर जाते हैं, जो जल्दी खराब होने का चांसेस रहता है. एंड हॉर्टिकल्चर कमोडिटीज इन द इवेंट ऑफ फॉल इन द मार्केट प्राइसेस. जब मार्केट प्राइसेस में फॉल हो जाए, जब बम्पर when there is a bumper production of these horticulture commodities, the market prices tend to fall because there is an increase in supply, so price will fall. So the government steps in to provide support to the farmers by this market intervention scheme. Okay, that's why this option is correct. The market intervention scheme is an ad hoc scheme under which are included the horticulture commodities and other agricultural commodities which are perishable in nature and which are not covered under the minimum price support scheme. In order to protect the growers of these horticulture and agricultural commodities from making distress sale in the event of bumper crop during the peak arrival period, when prices fall to a very low level, the government implements the minimum intervention scheme, market intervention scheme for a particular commodity on the request of the state government concerned. अब ये state government के request पे होता है, ये ध्यान रखना है हमें. Losses suffered are shared on the 50-50 basis between the central government and the state government. तो minimum intervention scheme में ये ध्यान रखना है कि जो losses हैं वो 50-50 basis पे 50-50 basis पे share होंगे central government और state government, जो कि request करेगा in the event of fall of market prices for horticulture crops and other crops. Let's see another question. Of which of the following forms a part of the capital receipts of the Government of India? Borrowings by government from the Reserve Bank, interest income received from the foreign governments, disinvestment receipts, loans and advances granted by the central government to the state governments. अब इसमें से कौन सा कैपिटल रिसीट है ये बताना है. Select the correct answer. So the answer is B. What was B? 1 and 3 only. Borrowings by the government from the Reserve Bank, disinvestment receipts. Under Article 112 of the Constitution of India, the annual financial statement has to distinguish expenditure of the government on revenue account from the expenditures from other expenditures. Okay, the government budget therefore comprises of the revenue budget and capital budget. हमें पता है गवर्नमेंट बजट में कैपिटल बजट होता है, रेवेन्यू बजट होता है. कैपिटल बजट कंसिस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल पेमेंट. नाउ कैपिटल बजट में क्या क्या होता है? कैपिटल रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल पेमेंट्स. द कैपिटल रिसीट्स आर लोन्स रेज्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट फ्रॉम पब्लिक called market loans, borrowings by the government from the Reserve Bank and other parties through sale of treasury bills, loans received from the foreign governments and bodies, disinvestment receipts and recoveries of loans from the state and the union territory governments and other parties. तो ये सब हमारा कैपिटल रिसीट्स में आता है, कैपिटल रिसीट्स. And what are capital payments? Capital payments consist of capital expenditure on acquisition of assets like land, buildings, machinery, equipment, as also investment in shares, etc., and loans and advances granted by the central government to the state and union territory governments, government companies, corporations, and other parties. Let's move ahead. Consider the following statements about the gold reserves in RBI. RBI buys gold every year from the International Monetary Fund. RBI Act permits the RBI to trade in gold. RBI reserves are held as backing for currency notes issued by the RBI and also as an asset. Which of the above statements is or are correct? Let's look at the answer. It's answer C, option C. It was 2 and 3. RBI Act permits RBI to trade in gold and RBI reserves are held as backing for currency notes issued by RBI and also as an asset. Banking regulator RBI had brought 8 tons of gold after almost 9 years. The RBI last bought the 200 tons of gold from the International Monetary Fund in November 2009. So अब दिख रहा है RBI buys gold every year from the International Monetary Fund. Every year नहीं buy करता है. We've seen the solution. So this becomes wrong. अब जब 1 incorrect हो गया है तो we can eliminate A, B and D. So option becomes C. Of the 566 ton gold reserves, 292 tons is held as a backing for notes issued and the balance is 274 tons. Is treated as an asset of the banking department. Banking department का asset माना जाता है ये जो gold held किया है RBI ने. The RBI's decision to buy gold is significant because unlike many other central banks such as People's Bank of China, RBI does not regularly trade in gold. Although the RBI Act permits it to do so. RBI Act बोलता है कि if the need arises, the RBI can trade in gold regularly, but it doesn't do so. Let's move ahead. Consider the following statements about real estate investment trusts. REITs. REITs are mutual fund-like institutions that enable the investments mainly in completed and revenue-generating real estate assets. REITs are regulated by the Securities Market Regulator in India. REIT can be launched as an initial public offering. Which of the above statements is or are correct? The option is D, which is 1, 2 and 3. All 3 are correct. REITs are similar to mutual funds when mutual funds provide an opportunity. While mutual funds provide an opportunity to invest in equity stocks, REITs allow one to invest in income generating real estate assets. Mutual funds में हम invest कर सकते हैं equity stocks में और REITs में हम invest कर सकते हैं इनकम जनरेटिंग रियल एस्टेट एसेट्स में. रियल एस्टेट के एसेट में हम इन्वेस्ट करना हो तो हम REITs के थ्रू करेंगे. दे आर कलेक्टिव इन्वेस्टमेंट व्हीकल्स दैट ऑपरेट एंड मैनेज प्रॉपर्टी पोर्टफोलियोज एंड गिव रिटर्न्स टू द इन्वेस्टर्स. प्रॉपर्टी पोर्टफोलियोज मैनेज होते हैं यहाँ पर और ये रिटर्न्स देते हैं इन्वेस्टर्स को. सिक्योरिटीज एक्सचेंज एंड बोर्ड ऑफ इंडिया सेबी mandated that REITs be listed on the exchanges and make an initial public offer to raise the money. सेबी ने इनको मैंडेट किया है कि अगर तुम्हें REIT से मनी जनरेट करना है तो यू हैव टू लिस्ट इट ऑन द एक्सचेंज रेट स्टॉक एक्सचेंजेस एंड मेक एन इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफरिंग. REITs can reduce the risk related to your property investments as 80% of the value of the REIT should be completed and rent generating assets. So जो REITs है It can reduce our risk in investing in the property if we are investing in the property investments, क्योंकि 80% जो वैल्यू है REITs की वो हमें कंप्लीटेड और रेंट जनरेटिंग एसेट्स में करनी है, जो ऑलरेडी रेंट जनरेट कर रहा है और जो ऑलरेडी कंप्लीट हो चुका है. 80% ऑफ द इन्वेस्टमेंट शुड बी इन सच REITs. So they are required to be run by professional management with specified years of experience and notified by SEBI. तो ऐसी मैनेजमेंट में तुम्हें प्रोफेशनल रिक्वायर्ड टू बी रन बाय प्रोफेशनल, ऐसी जहां पे भी इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हो दी शुड बी रन बाय प्रोफेशनल मैनेजर. प्रोफेशनल मैनेजमेंट रन कर रही होनी चाहिए इनको. REIT can be launched as an initial public offering. It can be launched as an initial public offering. What is initial public offering? जब कोई भी कंपनी अपना पहला ऑफर देती है इक्विटी मार्केट में टू रेज द मनी, उसको इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफरिंग बोलते हैं. इनिशियल पब्लिक ऑफरिंग, इनिशियल मतलब स्टार्टिंग, जो फर्स्ट वाला पब्लिक ऑफरिंग है. An investor can apply for investment in REIT through his Demat account, either online or by filling by filling up the IPO form, which is initial public offering form, and indicating Demat account details. After the issue is closed, the REIT will allot units to eligible investors. Correct? Next one is, an economy is said to have reached its highest possible efficiency when unemployment level has been consistently maintained at 0, equal income level has been reached for all economic agents, factors of production are allocated optimally in the production of goods and services, economy is utilizing all its natural resources in production. What is it? Let's see the answer. It's option C. What was it? Factors of production are allocated optimally in the production of goods and services. यही तो हमारे इकोनॉमी का the subject of economy. What is it about? यही तो होता है कि हमें optimally utilize करना है अपने factors of production को. This is what economy is all about. This is what economy is based on. अपने resources को, हमारे factors of production को हमें efficiently utilize करना होता है. We have to put them in use and allocate them efficiently so that there is no wastage because our resources are scarce. Now, let's look at the answer. Economic efficiency is when every scarce resource in an economy is used and distributed among its producers and consumers in a way that produces the most economic output and benefit to the consumers. मतलब हमारी resources को ऐसे allocate करना है कि सबसे ज्यादा हमें profit, सबसे ज्यादा हमें producers को भी फायदा हो और consumers को भी फायदा हो. Benefit to the consumers also and the producers also. Economic efficiency can involve efficient production decisions within firms and industries, efficient consumption decisions by individual consumers, and efficient distribution of consumer and producer goods across the individual consumers. अब इसका efficiency का मतलब क्या है? Economic efficiency कब होगी? जब हमारे production decisions हैं firms और industries के, वो efficient है. जब consumption decisions हैं हमारे, मतलब कोई कंज्यूमर है वो अपने डिसीजंस को अच्छे से ले रहा है कि भाई मुझे क्या किस चीज में मैं इन्वेस्ट करूं या कौन सा प्रोडक्ट मैं कंज्यूम करूं जिससे कम से कम मेरा पैसा खर्च हो, और एक रैशनल डिसीजन लेके अपनी मनी को एनहांस करने का सोचे. एंड एफिशिएंट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हो हमारे कंज्यूमर प्रोडक्ट्स का और गुड्स का. तो ये वाला सिचुएशन हमारा इकोनॉमिक एफिशिएंसी का सिचुएशन होता है. It is not necessary that income levels will be equal when resources are efficiently allocated. It is not necessary. अब हम सबसे ज्यादा हम ट्राई बस ये करते हैं कि हमारे रिसोर्सेज एफिशिएंटली एलोकेट हो जाएं. ये जरूरी नहीं है कि उस एलोकेशन लेवल पे इनकम लेवल्स इक्वल हो जाए. वी नो. So this is the last question. Which of the following reduces the capital stock of economy? Depreciation of assets, spending on infrastructure rather than capacity building of financial institutions. Which of the above statements is correct? Let's look at the answer. It's option A, which is depreciation of the assets. Depreciation अगर होगा तभी capital stock हमारा reduce होगा. Let's look at the solution. Statement 1. Depreciation is a gradual decrease in the economic value of the capital stock of a firm, nation or other entity. It can happen either by physical depreciation like wear and tear or obsolescence, or by changes in the demand for the services of a capital in question. अगर उसकी डिमांड में कमी आ गई कैपिटल की और नॉर्मल वेयर या तो फिर नॉर्मल वेयर एंड टियर और ऑब्सोलेंस से उसका वैल्यू कम हो गया है तो उसको डेप्रिसिएशन बोलते हैं. तब हमारा जो कैपिटल स्टॉक होगा वो कम हो जाएगा किसी भी फर्म का, एंटिटी का या नेशन का. स्टेटमेंट 2 में है कैपिटल स्टॉक इज एनीथिंग दैट एड्स टू the productive capacity of the economy. Spending on infrastructure actually increases the capital stock of the nation. हाँ, हमारा अगर हम infrastructure पे spend करते हैं तो हमारा capital stock increase होता है, it doesn't decrease. The question was saying it decreases. Question was spending on infrastructure rather than capacity building of the financial institution. So it doesn't reduce. The question was asking, does it reduces? No, it does not. So this becomes incorrect. So the correct answer is A. So this was all. Thank you. I hope you liked the class. And if you want to find the PDF, you can find it on the Telegram channel, Simplifying UPSC with Ease. And the link will be attached in the description box. Thank you.